Brett Sockold here, helping you make every class Catholic. I'm just outside of Lansing, Michigan, here with the Diocese of Lansing today, working with Catholic principals and pastors at a retreat at St. Mary Magdalene Parish. And I just wanted to share with you an idea that happened in our workshop this morning that was pretty exciting for me in my own work. If you know my work, you'll know that a lot of the work I do with Catholic teachers and thinking about their different subject areas from a Catholic point of view is rooted in the doctrine of creation, right? So what does it mean that the human person participates in these activities? What can it tell us about God? All this kind of stuff. And it's a very fruitful line of approach for thinking about any subject from a Catholic point of view. But I've been challenged a couple times, sometimes explicitly, sometimes implicitly, to think a little bit more about the doctrine of redemption. And I think that's a worthwhile challenge. What does the doctrine of redemption have to do, and how does it inform how we might approach some of our subjects? So I've been trying to think about that. And this morning, something happened in the group with the principals that was really helpful for me. So there was a conversation about teaching art. And the question that came up at one of the tables was, our students are encountering art out there in the world, and some of it's good and some of it's not so good. But even some of the good art, when we dig into the personal history and the story of the artist, there's some stuff in there that can be a little scandalous, certainly sometimes not age appropriate at minimum. And how do we deal with the fact that we're studying art that was made by artists whose lives were sometimes a real mess, and I thought that was a real opportunity now to think of the doctrine of redemption and what it might have to teach us about teaching, in this case, art. It's something really remarkable that people whose lives are often in a shambles, right, can produce things of real beauty. You don't actually have to be perfect to contribute to beauty in the world. And in fact, this is almost a paradox of it. Sometimes beauty comes directly or almost directly from our experience of brokenness and suffering. Right? And sometimes in our lack or in our brokenness is where we actually see our heart's deepest longing most clearly. And so we can produce some sort of beautiful art out of the depths of brokenness because we're given some experience and some clarity of our condition that shed some light. And so I thought, this is the cross is actually an image of this, right? That out of brokenness, God brings forth something beautiful. And so the encounter with beauty from an artist whose life was a bit of a wreck is an opportunity for us to say to ourselves and to our students, God doesn't give up on people, and nobody is a write-off. And even in the depths of whatever suffering we're going through, or whatever mistakes we may have made, or whatever evil things might have been done to us, even through no fault of our own, all of these things God can still use. God doesn't discard them, and God doesn't discard us, but can use that to contribute to a beautiful story, and in some cases, literally the creation of beauty, whether that's music, whether that's the plastic arts, whether that's literature. It often comes out of brokenness and suffering. And so I thought in that experience that we can point to with our students, we don't need to glorify the artist who's struggling. We don't need to glorify their decisions or their habits or their behaviors, but we can make the point that despite whatever was going wrong in someone's life, grace doesn't stop working. And art, good, beautiful art that emerges out of suffering is a sort of concrete, tangible expression of the doctrine of redemption in the world, that God doesn't give up on us and that he keeps working through us, not only despite our brokenness, but sometimes explicitly through our brokenness. And we see a picture of that on the cross. So that really helped me, and I want to keep doing this in other areas, but this is a breakthrough for me in thinking about the doctrine of redemption and how it applies to us approaching our different subject areas in the realm of art. And I was delighted to learn that this morning in my conversation with principals and pastors here in Lansing, Michigan.